Hey, golfers, and welcome back to the Second Swing YouTube channel for another Live at Lunch, our favorite segment, of course, every Thursday, live on the channel at 1 p.m. Central Time. And today we have a very, very special guest with us. We have, of course, for those of you that, have been following the channel and or are the gear junkies like myself, we're kind of in that beginning of the year period where there's some new products out there. And so we wanted to get someone on who's been in the weeds in terms of releasing a new product this year, and it is Chuck Thiry. He's with us, the vice president of XXIO. And the XXIO Prime, the new lineup is out and available. So, of course, we had to bring Chuck in to talk about that. Chuck, first of all, thank you for joining us. Thank you for making the time to do this. How are things going for you? What is it like for you to kind of have a launch like this? I mean, is it busy for you? What's that like for you?
Yeah, it is. It builds for a long time, Drew. Like as good. First of all, hello, Drew. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Um, but it builds. It builds for a long time. Like you said, I'm kind of in the weeds with it, so I'm part of the conversation on product beginning as far back as 2 years before it gets here. So the product that your customers and consumers are seeing right now coming into the market, Prime 13 and Prime Royal Edition, have been something we've been working on for over 2 years. The engineers have had the project for the most part, but we've been doing all the forecasting, doing all of this, doing all of that. So when the launch finally gets here, we're all pretty excited to see it happen and to get them out there and let consumers let us know how we did.
Yeah, I think there's a lot, of course, that we need to talk about when it comes to these products in particular. I got actually a couple of the iron heads right here with Prime 13. But I think as some of the viewers are tuning in right now, I think one thing I wanted to just allow you to kind of touch on is the story behind XXIO. What your mission is, what your goals are, obviously every year, and actually also as it maybe pertains to the relationship you guys have, with Cleveland and Trixon as well, and what that looks like. Because I think a lot of people don't realize is XXIO has been a leader in this lightweight golf club space for a long time now. If you're talking, on an international scale. So, what is XXIO's mission? What are the goals? And then also, can you maybe just kind of touch on the relationship with Cleveland and Trixon?
Yeah, thank you. I'd be happy to. I'll answer the question about our mission first, since that's the easy answer for me. We're quite different than other brands. We are 100% committed to women and seniors. That's our focus, nonstop. And that kind of leads into your other question, because what allows us to do that is the fact that our parent company owns several brands that are focused in other areas of the sport. So we're part of Dunlop Sports out of Japan. Dunlop Sports is the sports division of Sumitomo Rubber, and Dunlop Sports owns Cleveland Golf. They own Srixon, they own XXIO, and they also own Never Compromise putters. So essentially, with Cleveland Golf, we have kind of one of the world's foremost wedge brands. And then with Never Compromise, we've got a putter brand with a lot of history. With Srixon, we're really kind of focused on a more serious player, a little bit better player, certainly with their golf balls and also with the irons and woods. And then with XXIO, we're all about women and seniors. So having that kind of diversity really allows our different teams, whether it be in engineering or marketing, or customer service or what have you, to really focus in on specific messaging that fits the brand. We Some brands try to be all things to all people. We're not really like that. We really have specific brands designed for specific needs in the golf market, and we feel really fortunate about that. So, in terms of our history, our company's been making golf products for close to 100 years now. Srixon, or before Srixon, even our parent company started making golf balls in the 30s. We were a tire and rubber company, so that was kind of a natural for us to have those kind of
Sure.
materials that could go into a golf ball. And so we started doing that about 90 some years ago, and then Zexio, more specific to your question, came onto the scene in the year 2000. So prior to year 2000, we were a distributor for one of the largest brands in golf throughout Asia, and that relationship ended in the year 2000. So it left a little bit of a hole in our company or in our business. So the president of our company went to all of our engineers And if you know anything about Japanese companies, they are big on engineering. They're not big on marketing, but they're really big on engineering. Half the
Sure.
employees of the company are engineers. Uh, so basically, the president of the company went to our engineers and said, "I want you to make the finest product you can make, and cost is not an issue. Go away, do what you do, bring us the finest products you can." And really, 18 months later, XXIO was launched, and it was launched in the year 2000. And by the year before 2022, sometime in 2021 or 2001, excuse me, sometime in 2001, we became the number one brand throughout Asia. So it was really quick. Things
Wow.
happened very fast, right in that time, and it kind of elevated our brand in some of the bigger markets of the world. And an interesting point there, I'll let your viewers know something they may not know. Our name is at times difficult for them to pronounce. We like to
Sure.
say that in the United States, it took the public 20 years to be able to say Srixon, and as soon as they conquered that, we threw Zexio at them. Um, but kind of the heritage behind our name is it's XXIO. It's pronounced Zexio, and XXI is the Roman numeral 21, and O is one of the most important letters in the Japanese alphabet. It means top or king. So our name means excellence in the 21st century. So you put
Oh,
that
wow.
together with the fact that we started in the year 2000, and you can kind of see where that all came from. So, and then from there, really, it was just our goal and our mission has always been to develop the finest lightweight equipment we can for women and seniors and moderate swing speed players. That's our focus 100%.
Yeah, and wow, I did not know that, but that's an awesome story about the
That's a
name of
lot, isn't
Zexio. I didn't know about the name of Zexio.
Yeah.
I knew it probably had something to do with kind of the Japanese origin. I just obviously didn't have the specifics on that. So that's really cool. So
Yeah.
we as you kind of hinted at already, we got to talk about the new products, Zexio Prime. So we have Zexio Prime 13. We have the Royal Edition as well. I guess can you kind of compare the two of them in a sense, and kind of what are golfers going to get out? Let's say the Royal Edition and Prime 13. What are the distinct differences between the two? And then I think I also want to highlight kind of the tech that might be similar as well.
Yeah, very good question. So our main line, which Second Swing carries in all their stores, is Xexio 13, and then our Prime and Xexio 13. We're known for being lighter and softer than most of our competitors, right? So Xexio 13 is light and soft, and Xexio Prime is even lighter and softer. So we like to say that Prime is kind of the Xexio of Xexio. It's kind of the furthest extreme in terms of lightweight, high balance point, easy to get in the air, easy to swing for moderate swing speed players like me who've lost a little speed over the years. So Prime, when you think about other brands, when your consumers come into your store, most of the heads on the golf clubs that you stock, the gram weight is somewhere in the neighborhood of 210 grams. Most of the shafts on the drivers in your store are in the neighborhood of 48 to 55 grams, maybe. And most of the grips are in the 50 to 55 gram neighborhood. Okay. And all of that adds up to roughly 310 grams of golf club. Okay. Those are the three main components: the head, the shaft, and the grip. With Xexio Prime, the head is substantially lighter at 188 grams. The shaft is substantially lighter at 35 grams, and even the grip is half the weight of a standard grip. And all of that is designed to put speed back in the golf swing. When you think about our player, women and seniors, the one thing we all have in common is we don't swing it as fast as we used to. On average, the average player after the age of 50 will lose about 1 mile an hour of club head speed per year. So no matter how much you go to the gym, no matter how hard you work at it, eventually father time gets you and you start losing speed. And when you lose speed, your ball flight flattens. You start to hit the ball lower. Generally, with a lower swing speed player like myself, our misses go to right field. And we don't hit the ball as far as we used to. The green gets further away. So, giving that player something light, something with a high balance point, something a little bit softer, kind of puts them back in the game a little bit. So, that's Prime. Prime is for the people that really struggle with speed. They've seen their ball flight flatten. They're not hitting it as far as they did 5 years ago. That's the Prime Golf Club. And then the Royal Edition is kind of the high bling, fancy. It's the rolls with all the jewels on it and the gold trim and the whole thing. It's even got ion gold, actually gold composite in the golf club itself. So that's kind of for somebody who wants something super unique and different, and really kind of likes to have the best. It's a similar player profile, Drew. We do it for both men and women, and it's for people that need help with speed. But it's if you want Royal Edition, that means you just kind of are looking for something that's the best, something that sticks out. When you look at it, immediately you'll notice the colors, the golds, the trim on it,
Hmm.
and it's really for somebody who likes the best. Um, I always say that you and I can leave the studio at the same time, and you'll be in your Ferrari, and I'll be in my rust bucket, and we're still going to get to the 7-Eleven at the same time, but you're going to enjoy the drive a lot more than I am, and that's kind of what Royal Edition is all about.
I like that description right there. That's pretty good. So yeah, you're kind of like the player that maybe wants. It kind of invites people to ask some questions about the clubs in their bag. I mean, obviously people might be doing that anyway when it comes to XXIO and XXIO Prime, just because hey, maybe that player is all of a sudden picking up some speed that they maybe thought they had lost. But then of course you add the appearance of Royal Edition, and that's when you get all these questions. Maybe the bag is out there in the drive range and people are walking by and it's like, oh, what is that? What is this guy's bag? Well, what's in there?
I do this for a living, and you just explained it way better right there than I did in my entire. Yeah, that's exactly right. If you like people to come up and ask you about the golf clubs in your bag, Royal Edition will do that every time. You can't you
Okay.
can't miss it.
Okay, well, good. Well, golfers, hey, if you're that player, we've got a solution for you with XXIO Prime, the Royal Edition. So, as it pertains to Prime 13, again, I've got some of the irons here, but
Yep.
I know there's some technology packed into these. Refinements. I think specifically I saw in terms of the information that we got from XXIO about the sweet spot, increasing a little
Yeah.
bit there. So what's kind of gone into the process to increase the sweet spot, really throughout the entire lineup, woods down to irons.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because think about our player, right? Our player is not a tour player. Our player is somebody who hits the ball in various places on the face. So a big part of our goal, a couple of things, right? We're trying to give him speed back to get him distance. We're trying to make sure that club head is good and square at impact, so that ball's not going to the right. And then we're trying to give him as much pop off the face as we can, and then trajectory. So everything that we do on the golf club really comes back to those three or four key points. And that's, I think, really kind of what you're hitting on there is the beauty of XXIO. When you don't have to be all things to all people. Like, we're not just taking a head and saying, all right, Drew is 34 years old and he hits it 290 yards and this will work for him. And then Chuck is 63 years old and he hits it 220 yards. It'll also work for him. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that everything on this golf club is made for this specific type of player. So real different than, I know I'm giving you a long-winded answer to your question, but real different than other companies who do great work, but they really are trying to take a head and saying you can go ahead and put any shaft in there, put a shaft in there that works for you. We don't say that. We say this head is made for this shaft, which is made for this grip. So a real different approach. But now getting into some of the tech and some of your questions. So increasing that sweet spot is always the goal of every manufacturer. So basically, what we do with XXIO is we start by taking weight out of the head completely, right? Instead of making it 210 or 15 grams, we make it 185 to 190. So we're taking weight away, which means we have thinner walls that are more responsive. And then what we do with the weight that is in the head is we put it as far down on the golf club as we can and as far back as we can. So we're trying to increase ball flight and trajectory, and we're trying to increase the moment of inertia and get that ball to come off of there as hot as we can. So we're doing that. We're also, the profile of the newer golf clubs has changed a little bit, so that we have a much more forgiving golf club where our golfers miss it, and where XXIO golfers miss it Average players tend to miss the ball lower in the face. So our clubs are much hotter, lower in the face. Their misses are low heel and high toe. Okay, so on a driver, that's a big space, but that's where their misses are. So that's where we're really cognizant of making the golf club as forgiving as we can. Um, with the irons that you have in front of you, same thing. Most average players, and that's what we're talking about, miss the ball way more often thin than they do fat. So what we try to do is take weight away from the lower leading edge. Okay, we put it in the back of the golf club that your viewers can't see in that view, but in the back of the golf club, we drag the weight back and put it low. But then there's a real deep cavity there to pull weight
Mm-hmm.
away from the kind of the leading edge, so that when they miss the ball low in the club face, it's still hot and it gets the ball up in the air nicely. The unique thing about the golf club you're holding there is we're one of the few companies that still puts what we call a driver face on an iron. So that's all titanium face there. And that's not
Oh
done
wow.
very often in golf anymore. Many companies think it's just too expensive to do it. But when you start talking about engineers, if you can give them a product that is both lighter and stronger, they can do amazing things. And a titanium face will do that. It's lighter, so they can make it thin and hot, and that's what you get there with that titanium face on the Prime golf clubs.
Yeah, I think first of all, I'm just in holding the iron too. I think I haven't even mentioned the look of it yet, but I appreciate that, because I think with, what I think I'm going to term, a game improvement iron, right? I think there is
Yeah,
maybe a sense out there that sometimes those clubs can get bulky or chunky, but you guys have added all this technology in there, and it looks really clean too. Like, it can't see anything of the, any of the action behind that top line. I can't see any of that when I put it down at address. It just looks really clean too. So I guess I'll give you guys credit for achieving that, adding the technology, putting all that weight low and back, while still managing to make it really aesthetically pleasing for the golfer.
oh my gosh, you hit on it, and that's really a new profile for Prime. We've really refined that the last two generations. You're 100% right. If you looked at a Prime club from 8 or 9 years ago, unfortunately, it was more bulky, it was bigger, it was all the things you just said, and so we worked really hard to get that profile, make it, because even an average player, the look is important. The look is really important. I can't play like Tiger, but I know what a good golf club looks like. And so we worked really hard on that Prime to give it a beautiful profile. It doesn't have a ridiculous top line. It's a really nice shape to the golf club. When you look at the 7 and 8 iron, they look just fantastic. So it's yeah, you have a good eye to pick that up. It's really a neat looking golf club.
Yeah, I was actually looking. We have a question that was actually submitted prior, through one of our social feeds, but I think it's kind of a good time to ask because we're talking about the irons here. So, here, hold on, let me bring it up exactly. Roger is asking, I play traditional wedges. Can I fit into a XXIO Prime iron set seamlessly, or should I also adjust my wedges?
It's a super good question. Super good question. So I would say, from a loft perspective, your wedges are probably fine. Your most sets of irons out there now have gotten quite a bit stronger, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the pitching wedges are now somewhere between 42 and 44 degrees, probably. So if I don't know what set of clubs the gentleman currently plays, but if the wedge lofts and the gapping matches up with his current set, they probably will still work fine with XXIO irons. The one place where he will see a difference is in the weight of the golf clubs. If he's playing steel
Hmm.
shafted wedges, they're going to feel a little bit heavy next to XXIO irons. If he's playing graphite shafted wedges, not as big of a transition, not as big of a deal. But if you've got, steel wedges, and you start carrying a really lightweight iron, you will notice a bit of a difference there. So
Right.
I,
Yeah.
I would say, if it's me and I'm him, I'm just looking for graphite irons or graphite wedges, excuse me, and then the transition will be fine.
Yeah. I think, to kind of bounce off of that question, I think there's, you know, that is a key element that I think people miss, and I think that even with in general with wedges, I think people kind of just almost disregard the weight and or the head type as well, because I think to XXIO's credit, like this is a club that it couldn't be easier to hit, right? In terms of
Yeah.
the speed, and I think that it is. I think it's important to just make sure that's something you're aware of, that it's going to be lighter, it's going to be easier to hit, and like in a sense, you don't want to go from you don't want to say, well, I got a wedge distance now, that stinks because my irons are so much easier to hit, right? So
Yeah.
there's probably that
Yeah.
element of it too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's also super common for people to have graphite shafted irons and steel shafted wedges for whatever reason. That's, our company owns Cleveland Golf, as we mentioned earlier, and as many people as there are that now play graphite woods and graphite shafted irons, we still sell more steel shafted wedges than we do graphite by quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly.
and
Yeah, so
I that could go
that's
ahead.
it's certainly a trend that's changing in golf right now. And
Yeah.
actually, speaking on that too, I wanted to ask about um, the long irons, hybrids, fairway woods, kind of what I guess the lineups are or options are with Prime, because it seems like at least for us nowadays in fittings, lots more players playing those high lofted woods or playing hybrids that might be like a 5 or a 6 or a 7 hybrid. So could you speak to those options and maybe what you've seen in this type of player? Like what is maybe a common setup there as it pertains to those clubs versus playing maybe a 5 iron or a 4 iron, with
Yeah.
these types of
Yeah.
golfers?
Yeah, that's good. And yeah, and the folks at Second Swing, the fitters, do such a great job with this too. I've witnessed it myself in the store. Nowadays, when you say long iron, you're almost talking about a 6 iron,
Right.
and because it has changed so much. But we are a big fan of loft, Drew. When you think about our player, you kind of start with the fact that our player doesn't have as much speed as they'd like. So if you don't have as much speed as you'd like, loft really becomes a good friend of yours, because in today's heads, the way most manufacturers make them, they're actually taking a little bit of spin off the head. They've taken some spin off the golf ball, and that's great if you're young and you're a strong player. But if you lack speed, it's getting harder and harder for those players to get the ball up in the air the way
Right.
they want to. So loft is your best friend. We sell more lofted drivers, like we go all the way through 13 and a half on the driver. We go 3, 4, 5, 7, and 9 wood on the fairway. So we go through the
Sure.
9 wood, and then our hybrids now on the prime set start at the 4 hybrid and run through the 8 hybrid. So what's happened for this player you're talking about, whether they be women or men, seniors, um, that's what's happening with their set. They're carrying less and less irons. They're carrying more lofted hybrids and more lofted fairway woods. And there's just no question that for most of us, that will make the game easier to play. Just
Yeah.
no question about it. That any data you see, any studies you see, will tell you that a 5 hybrid for the average player, he's going to get way more out of that than he is a 4 iron.
Yeah, could you maybe speak on like maybe the player that's watching this right now? Maybe it's someone that is. I think what the number that you mentioned earlier was after the age of 50, players are losing about a mile an hour of club head speed per year, right? So let's say there's a player
Right.
that's kind of entering that phase, and their club head speed is starting to drift off. What should they be looking for when maybe that conversation has to come up when say, okay, I have a 5 iron in my bag, but it's starting to become a little tougher to hit. I guess at what point do you start to think about making a switch, or in that case, maybe you swap out your XXIO Prime, 6 iron for what would be a 7 hybrid? I guess what is that conversation like, and maybe when should golfers have a decision to make there?
Yeah. So when that starts to happen, and honestly, we hope everybody plays the game for the rest of their lives. So if you do, it will happen to you eventually, right? We always like to say, God willing, we will all be XXIO players someday. That's kind of the goal. And
Sure.
so when it starts to happen, what the golfer is going to notice is, they're going to notice that, no matter what they try in terms of equipment, they seem to be hitting it a little shorter than they were. They're going to start to notice that the ball flight is flattening on all their clubs, their woods, their irons. It's just coming, the ball flight is coming down. They can't get over the same tree they used to be able to hit it over. So once they start noticing that, then that's the time to go in and start working with a fitter. And if I were in a town where there was a second swing, I would go in. I'd start looking at the numbers on a monitor, and then the fitter can really take you through the set. And doesn't mean you have to go in and replace your entire set right away. You can look at where are my gaps, right? Because all of a sudden that player now has a gap that he didn't used to have, right? The guy you're talking
Hmm.
about used to be able to transition really nicely from their 5 wood to their 4 iron or their 4 hybrid, and now all of a sudden they don't have a club for 190 yards. So when you start to notice that, get with a fitter. Try lighter equipment. You will see because on the monitors they'll see their speed go up right away, and we tell people I don't think there's a golf club out there that you will swing faster than his XCO golf club. I don't care how old you are, how young you are, how strong you hit it. Put us on against a monitor, and right away you'll see your speed pick up. And so for that player that you're talking about, that's the best thing he could do for himself or herself is try to get a couple of miles an hour club head speed back, and then with that, just work with a fitter and either if you're going to retool the whole bag, it's not crazy. Get yourself in some lightweight golf clubs, and you'll see the game get a little bit easier. But if you're not ready to do that, then work on where the new gaps are. Now, the one thing I will tell you with XXIO is it's super common for somebody to buy his XCO driver or his XCO 5 wood or his XCO hybrid, and 18 months later they have a full bag of it. Because once you start hitting
Right.
lightweight, you'll see it. You'll see it right away, and that's really it's more common. I'm 40 years into this now, so I've worked for a few of the major brands. It's more common with XCO than any other brand I've ever seen, just because it's so much lighter. And once a player finds that they like that and they can hit it, all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, first of all, their 3 wood starts feeling heavy, and their driver starts feeling
Right.
heavy if they've got a lightweight 5 wood. So more often than not, eventually over time, that player will transition into lighter, softer golf clubs.
Yeah, I think that's probably some sort of video test that we can probably conduct among second swing is getting a player in this kind of category, right, and saying, all right, let's give you 5 clubs, we'll give you one of them's XCO, just give them a swing and we'll see which one is the fastest on the club speed, right? Because I think to your point, our fitters always say it right away in fittings. You could watch any of the fittings we've either filmed or you could just talk to any of our fitters. But one of the first things they're going to try and do if a player is looking to gain distance is how can I increase the club speed? I mean, because that's the first way, the
Right.
most major way to increase the potential for distance is just to increase the club speed. You swing faster. That gives you the potential for more distance, and essentially that's exactly what XXIO aims to do at its core, right, is lightweight materials. Everything is lighter. You mentioned the club head, the shaft, the grip. It's all lighter than really anything else out there. And so that's the
Right.
first step is the club head speed. And then basically from there, you're saying, well, if you're going to swing faster, not only the distance is going to be farther, but probably the ball is going to launch a little higher based on how the club head's designed. And so the result then really, you're going to enjoy the game more, right? You're gonna hit the ball better. You're gonna enjoy it more, and your scores might even go down too.
That's 100% right, and that's so well said. One of the things we like to tell players is, I'm not going to push anybody into buying our golf clubs. It's just not the way we work. Go hit our stuff and have some fun with it. You'll immediately, no matter who you are, no matter how you play the game, young person, old person, male, female, strong, small, tall, it doesn't matter. You'll immediately notice that our golf clubs are different than other golf clubs, and they're really fun to hit. I do it all the time with even good young players. I love seeing them take our golf club and they just watch that ball go up through the moon. And
Right.
so the best thing somebody can do is if they want to have a little fun or if they're considering golf clubs, go into a second swing, get in one of the nets or the fitting areas, and take a few swings with it, and immediately you will see that the results are different. I'm not saying they're better. I'm just saying they're different than anything else you've hit before.
Yeah, I like that too. I appreciate that in that it's a the story is that XXIO is different. It's not going to be because at the end of the day, as you've mentioned, XXIO is a brand that is focusing solely on senior golfers, men and women, right? And the other brands out there in the marketplace or in the industry, you don't see something like that. So I think that speaks to sort of the focus and the dedication that is in these. And so I guess as we start to wrap up here, Chuck, first of all, this has been awesome. Thank you for joining us. And I think, the viewers on the channel are going to really appreciate this, especially those that might be at this particular stage in their, call it golf career, where maybe they are starting to kind of reckon with themselves on maybe losing some clubhead speed. This is a really good one for them. And so with that said, I think I want to address those people that are watching this now. Maybe there's some that, the XXIO brand is either new to them or they still haven't quite seen enough of it, call it in the United States, right? And so they're maybe a little hesitant. What would you say to those players that, are trying to, they know they need some equipment. They know they need something lightweight, but maybe hesitant to pull the trigger on XXIO. What would you tell those folks?
We get cards, letters, notes all the time from people that, just like the ones you just described, we get letters from people that were ready to quit the game, and they talk about how XXIO made the game enjoyable for them again. It's worth your time to go out and hit these golf clubs. You should buy whatever is best for you. So if our golf clubs don't show you improvement, don't buy them. But it is worth your time to experience something that's different, something that's lighter, something that gets the ball up in the air. It really can make the game much more enjoyable for you. It does it for me. The other little secret I will tell you about people my age, baby boomers, 18 holes. It's not as short as it used to be. We get a little tired after about the 12th or 13th hole. And when you are swinging lighter golf clubs, you will feel way better on those last 6 holes than you do if you are swinging heavy golf clubs. So that's, you kind of nailed it. I mean, our big thing, we talk about it all the time, is how can we make the game more enjoyable? So if you're at that point and you'd like a little more distance, go hit our stuff, give it a try, have a little fun with it. And we think the numbers will respond nicely.
Yeah, I think this we got a comment here in the YouTube chat. It's a really good way to kind of summarize it. John Kelly says, XXIO will keep people playing golf for longer. It keeps the fun in golf. So, I mean, there's no other, kind of no better way to really summarize it there. So, I think, again, this is, we kind of, the focus today, so to speak, was XXIO Prime 13. Go get fit at Second Swing. Of course, XXIO 13 as well is also in our stores, able to get fit. Or as we hinted at earlier, if you are that player that you want people talking about your golf clubs, talking about your game, maybe the Royal Edition is for you. So, Chuck, thank you for joining. Thank you for all your insight. This has been fantastic. Golfers, again, leave your comments if you're watching after the stream is live, and we'll get back to those as well. But again, Chuck, it's been awesome to have you. Thank you so much for the time here.
Drew, thank you, and thank you, Second Swing. We appreciate all you do.